My name is Mark Jackson, and this is Pastor for the Nerds. Today we're going to be looking at the question, what happens to babies when they die? There are very few things in this world that will cause grief quite as much as a child or a baby dying. There's nothing that will cause us to question our faith, our belief system, quite like the thought of a baby losing their life. So today we're going to look at that question. What happens when a baby dies? To be honest with you, I'm stuck with, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I do know that we have a good God. And wherever babies end up, it's just. And it's good, and it's what's supposed to happen. I do, though, think that there's some great evidence that points to babies going to heaven. And so today we're going to look at the evidence in a new segment that we're calling Take a Look at the Book. The first thing we want to do is find an example of a time that an infant died in the Bible and see what happened to that baby. We don't have to look very far. In fact, in 2 Samuel, we know that David's son got terminally ill. He was sick for about 7 days, and then he died. He passed away. And during that 7-day period, it says that David fasted and prayed for his child to live. But when that time was over, he came out and he stopped fasting. And he was questioned and asked, why are you done fasting now? Aren't you concerned for your child? And David said, why should I be? I know where he is, and I know that I'll see him again. David's response that he is going to see him again can mean one of two things. Either David knows that he's going to see him in heaven, or David knows that he's going to see the baby in hell. But if we look at Psalm, specifically Psalm 23:6, we see that David is going to dwell in the house of the Lord. So at least for David's baby, he's going to heaven, and David's going to see him there. The next question we need to look at is what causes somebody to go to hell? As Christians, we know that sin is what separates us from God, that sin is what causes us to be punished and go to hell. So the question we have to have then is, are babies or children accountable for their sin here on this earth? Are they moral agents that understand the difference between good and evil? And are they accountable for their sin? I think a great example of this concept comes to us from Deuteronomy 1. After the Israelites rebel against God out in the wilderness, they're sentenced to 40 years of wandering till that whole generation of people died off. But the infants and the small children, they were not accountable for that sin. In fact, God says, I will not punish them for their father's sins. I think those are two great examples that point towards that perhaps babies and children go to heaven when they die. The fact that we see an infant child die, and David rejoiced in the fact of knowing that he was going to see him again in heaven. And secondly, we saw that the Israelite children and babies weren't accountable for their sin while they're wandering in the desert. That their parents ended up being accountable and dying for that sin, but the children didn't. Unfortunately, I'm not comfortable saying for certain that I know where babies go when they die. But I think there is some great evidence pointing to the fact that they will be with their Lord and Savior in heaven. This has been Pastor for the Nerds. We'll see you next time.